The special character of stories in the New Testament lies in the fact that they are not told just for themselves. They are not only about other people, they are always within God's wisdom about us, beyond even what the storyteller intends. This is the nature of living word. So let us wonder together about this story in the Gospel of Mark. Notice that we are still only at the beginning, in the middle of chapter 1. Mark is setting the scene and giving us notice about what we can expect. Why would Mark choose to include this detail about the healing of a mother-in-law in the very first chapter of his gospel? His story has already moved at a hectic pace from Jesus' baptism in the Jordan River to his time of preparation in the wilderness, to his calling of 4 fishermen by the Lake of Galilee as disciples, and then immediately into a synagogue where he astounds people with the authority of his teaching and his powers of exorcism. Phew! And now he moves the action directly from the synagogue, which is the place for men and organized public life, to a home, the place of women and the early church community. Here, his first action is to heal Peter's mother-in-law. It's very noticeable that Mark uses the Greek word meaning raised up to describe her healing, the same word that the angel speaks in the empty tomb about Jesus' resurrection at the end of Mark's gospel. We, like the listeners of Mark's community, have heard all the stories about Jesus' resurrection after his death and burial, yet somehow, according to Mark, Peter's mother-in-law has been raised in the same way. Then, as she begins to serve, Mark uses the Greek word diakoneo, which is the word used by Mark to speak of the ministry of the disciples later in his gospel. These little clues indicate to Mark's original audience and to us that while nameless and therefore just an ordinary woman, like them and like us, she was a respected elder within the early Christian community and a witness to the reality of resurrection life right in the here and now. Most commentators steeped in patriarchal theology down through the ages simply have assumed that she began serving dinner. However, this Greek verb to serve is the word from which we get our word deacon. Let there be no mistake about it. Mark is making it clear that from the beginning, in Galilee and to the end, in Jerusalem, women were true followers who practiced Christ-like service along with the men. In other words, both at the outset and at the conclusion of Mark's gospel, women, in a society which overtly devalued them, are identified as true disciples. In this minor healing, Mark is serving notice that patriarchal theology with its devaluation of women will be overturned. And after 2,000 years, which realistically is the blink of an eye in the history of the universe, the church is finally beginning to get it. Like the flower in the bulb of the song we just sang, this is God's reign coming on earth as it is in heaven, even though even now it is often something God alone can see. This is why the first person to be healed in Mark's story is a woman. And it shows that from the very beginning, Jesus included the least of society. As we have learned in the United Church of Canada, opening things up for you women is bound to open them up for everyone on the margins of society. Kingdom work takes a lot of soul energy, and our story tells us that Jesus leaves the house early in the morning before everyone wakes up and withdraws to a deserted place to pray. Prayer is shown to be an important part of Jesus' relationship with God. In Mark's telling, it seems to point to moments of extreme effort or crisis in his ministry. We hear of Jesus retreating for prayer 3 times. Here, after a day of energetic healing and exorcising evil spirits, one time after the feeding of 5,000 people in the middle of his Galilee mission, and finally in the Garden of Gethsemane just before his arrest and crucifixion. We too need to find our deserted places in order to re-energize and charge our spiritual batteries for the work we are called to do. Is it possible that we are being given such a time right now, a collective opportunity during this coronavirus crisis we are in, to get our priorities realigned and our souls replenished for the kingdom work yet to come? I wonder.